And I'm Seth Kripe from Lola Wines.
And I'm Anthony, also from Lola Wines, Director of Wholesale.
All right, so we're here today in Calistoga. We're excited about the release of our 2019 Malvasia Bianca, releasing later today. We wanted to try a bunch of Malvasias from around the world and get a unique perspective of different variations of the grape.
I think the idea too is to add some context to a grape that a lot of people aren't really comfortable with, don't know about, and to try to provide a backdrop so that they can understand it. Had you ever heard of Malvasia Bianca before you? Because you found the Chenin vineyard, is that how it got presented to you? Like, hey, do you want these other grapes?
I may have heard about it, read about it in some wine books or history books, but didn't know too much about it. And so it was intriguing, I guess, just because that's kind of what's interesting when you've spend your life in wine, especially in one region like I've been here in Napa Valley, and you find a varietal that, unbeknownst to me, is planted here, and it's some of the only planted here. So
right.
It was a pretty unique challenge to try to take on. And so this is our Malvasia Bianca from St. Helena in the center of Napa Valley. The interesting thing about this wine, as well, is it's really a floral, intense floral wine that has really strong orange blossom, rose petal, intense aromatics, but the pH is really low, so it has a really lean, crisp, dry, low alcohol mouthfeel and a crispness to it. It's not a sweet wine. I think a lot of people would think that Malvasia, that know it can be made in a sweet way, and it has an aromatic profile that you might think it was going to be sweet, but it's really lean, crisp, dry. So it's a nice juxtaposition there.
You mentioned the florality in Malvasia Bianca, and florality is, for me, the number one note. And in other wines, your number one note, like for Pinot Noir, may be cherry. And it's hard for people sometimes to wrap their head around, like, yeah, wines a lot of times can smell flowery, but for this wine, it is significantly and of utmost importance. It's the lead step in the wine. Right? It's really floral. It smells like your springtime in an orange vineyard.
So what would be your tasting notes on the Lola Malvasia?
For me, it's overtly floral. It has crisp acidity, no new oak, and a lively balance. I think it's really interesting to compare if we go over to like the first wine on the left here, which comes from the Canary Islands. It carries a lot of the same qualities for me. It's very crisp, doesn't have oak, it's not really weighted, but it doesn't have the same level of florality.
Right, it's a little bit more muted in its smell, but it's very, very bright acidity, lean mouthfeel, and a nice, pretty wine.
The third wine here that comes from northern Italy, from Friuli, which is where a lot of Pinot Grigio comes from, actually has a lot of those qualities. It's the least overt of all the wines. It's the most subtle. It's crisp. It doesn't have a ton of florality to me. It's kind of a nondescript white wine.
Well, alternatively, the second wine from Croatia, Slovenia, yeah. Sorry, is the second wine from Slovenia has more of a what we could identify as going through malolactic fermentation and having that secondary sort of richness, nuttiness.
And then if you want to get really wacky, I would say the Lola and the Colle di Catone are the wines that are the most unique. The Lola has the most overt florality. It's really like putting your face in a bowl of rose petals. And the Colle di Catone is much more evolved. It's 2014. It's oxidative. It spends like 4 years in a tank before it's even bottled, and then it's aged for another 3 or 4 years.
The last wine, it has some skin contact, right?
Yeah, I think it's a week on the skins.
Right, which we do with Lola as well, is 30%. The final blend is 30% fermented on the skins that we blend in to sort of add those elements and that interesting, unique element of the full component of the grape cluster and the skins and the pulp and the stems to add texture elements and
how long is that on the skins for?
just through fermentation for 10 days.
10 days.
So yeah, which
what-
I'd imagine this one might be longer, the Italian one.
I don't know if it's longer. The Italian one, I think, is on its lees in tank for 3 or 4 years, so that may be giving it some weight.
The interesting thing too about all these wines we've tasted is that they're all bone dry and crisp styles of wine, and I think it's interesting for us to try to fly the flag for unique varietals that can be very floral and grapes that people aren't necessarily used to, but they can make lean, thin, crisp profile wines that can be an alternative to Pinot Grigio or Sauvignon Blanc and varietals that most people enjoy and appreciate. And so it can be a little bit more of a way for us explaining this, and knowing that this is out there is a little bit of a way, I think, hope for people to realize that there's other varietals that can be in pleasant ways, and you don't have to be afraid of them.